Hello, I'm Bob Fadler, the Director of Strategic Defense Education at the Reserve Officers Association. Today we have an extraordinary guest, Jim Locher. He's a former Assistant Secretary of Defense, a former senior staff member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and for our purposes, most importantly, he's the Executive Director of the Project on National Security Reform, one of the most comprehensive studies and projects on national security that's ever been conducted in this country. Jim just finished an hour-long program at the Minuteman Memorial Building to an audience of uniformed members and civilian attendees. And it's our privilege to spend about 10 minutes with him today going over some of the highlights of the project's findings. Jim, thank you for being with us today.
Well, I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Could you just go over a little bit of the history of the project, and then we'll go through some of the major themes that you've developed?
Sure. Well, the project's been underway for 2 years, and the Reserve Officers Association was one of our original partners, helped us launch this particular project. So I'm delighted to be back here today to join you and your colleagues for this presentation. But we've released our report in early December publicly, making 38 recommendations for reforming the national security system. And we're now hard at work translating those recommendations into legal instruments, into executive orders and presidential directives, but also into statutory provisions that we'll hope the Congress will consider.
38 recommendations, that's a lot. Did you have buckets of themes that those 38 fell into?
Well, we did. To make our recommendations more understandable by those that will need to consider them, we put them into 7 major themes. For example, we have the idea that we need to now focus on national missions and outcomes. Much of our focus in the past has been the departments focusing on their tasks, but we need to get all of the departments and agencies focusing on what it is that the nation requires. And this will require a lot more integrated effort, a lot more collaboration across the various departments and agencies. And so that's one major theme. Another major theme is that we need to create unity of purpose across our government. So we need more strategic direction from the President. We're proposing that he issue national security planning guidance every year. We're thinking of linking our resources to goals much more tightly than we've done in the past. Especially if the President establishes strategic objectives, we would expect the budgets of the departments and agencies to be closely aligned with his objectives and what missions he's specified.
Jim, you had an extraordinary group of people that worked on your project. As I recall, you had maybe 300 people at different times working on it, including some extraordinary luminaries who now find themselves in high positions in the Obama administration. Could you comment on just 2 or 3 of those folks and where they're at today?
Certainly. You know, our project had a board of directors, what we called our guiding coalition, of 25 distinguished practitioners, and some of them are going to occupy key positions. General Jim Jones is going to be the National Security Advisor, is the National Security Advisor to President Obama. Admiral Denny Blair is going to be the Director of National Intelligence. He's had his confirmation hearing, but at this moment has not been yet confirmed by the Senate. Jim Steinberg is going to be the Deputy Secretary of State. Michelle Flournoy, the Undersecretary for Policy. So those key members have already been selected. So in the various key agencies, defense, state, intelligence, and the National Security Council system, we have people who've been part of our project over the last 2 years.
And I know you've worked very closely with both the Senate and the House, and I think your chief Senate sponsor was now our Secretary of State, is that right?
That's correct. When she was Senator Clinton, she had agreed that she would lead this effort in the Senate. She's very knowledgeable on national security reform issues. She served on the Joint Forces Command Transformational Advisory Group for a number of years, where she had a chance to study these challenges. And so she's well placed from our perspective as Secretary of State, somebody that understands the agenda, the importance of making some bold transformational changes in the national security system.
And I also think, as I recall from your other comments you've made, that former Senator and now Vice President Biden was very supportive of many of the efforts of the project.
He is very supportive. When he was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he held a series of hearings at which I had the chance to testify. He formed an advisory group on national security reform. A number of members of my project, including myself, were part of the advisory group, and he has called for a new National Security Act, one of the pillars of what we're attempting to do. So we do have another very well-positioned ally in this effort. So there are lots of people in the new Obama administration who we're going to be relying on to move this important agenda forward.
It really does seem like the stars are lining up very nicely. I had one last question, and that is, if people wanted to find the information on the report, is it on a website?
It is. The project has an excellent website where we have all of our reports and the things that we've been doing, lots of additional background information. It's www.pnsr.org. And so this report, there's an executive summary of the report which gives all of the highlights of the work we've done. The report itself is 800 pages in length, so it would take quite a while to download, but the executive summary provides lots of the powerful ideas, and I would encourage people to go there. I think they'll be impressed by the information that's available to them.
Well, Jim, thank you again for being with ROA again. You've graced us with your presence on numerous occasions over the last 3 years, and I know from the reaction of the audience today, they were absolutely overwhelmed with the project and what you've done and the eloquence with which you've stated the case for national security reform. Thank you again for being with us.
Well, my thanks to ROA. At the time in which we were just beginning this project, ROA played a hugely important role in it. So the whole nation needs to be thanking ROA for that contribution.
Well, thank you very much. I'll pass that along for sure. Thanks.
You're welcome.